Hey guys, Halina here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Black Widow, so stay tuned. Alright, so I have my Taskmaster shirt, and I'm going to be reviewing Black Widow, but I'm going to be doing this review a little bit differently than I've done the other reviews. I'm still going to have my non-spoiler thoughts first and then go into spoilers, but rather than having my spoiler section broken up into what I liked and what I didn't like, I'm going to talk about, plot points and characters and give my thoughts on them instead. There's timestamps in the description if you want to just skip ahead to whatever interests you the most, I guess. So first, my non-spoiler thoughts. Black Widow takes place immediately after Captain America Civil War, where we see Natasha go on the run from Thaddeus Ross and essentially the American government because she went against the Sokovia Accords. So they're hunting her down and she is on the run. But as she's on the run, she's forced to confront her past with her surrogate family and the Red Room that trained her to be the most gifted assassin. Black Widow coming in during Phase 4 as a prequel kind of gives you the impression that, you're going to get answers to some of your most burning Natasha-centric questions. You don't really. Okay. Black Widow, don't get me wrong, is a fun, action-packed, heartbreaking movie. It is very enjoyable. But if you're going into Black Widow thinking Black Widow is going to answer every single question that I have, it's not going to happen. We do get some answers to something. Some are more clear cut and some are a lot more vague. But there is answers to certain things, just not, I think, the most pressing questions on most of the fans' minds. So keep that in mind a little bit. The movie itself, though, is filled with great character moments, great fight scenes. Honestly, those two things alone really make this movie worth it. I wish this movie felt more like a closure chapter for Natasha rather than a we're setting up the future with, all the characters. Because, honestly, we don't know much more about Natasha than we did when we started with her in Iron Man 2 and when we finished with her in Endgame. So, yeah. Fun, great moments between characters and action scenes and everything like that, but not necessarily answering the burning questions. Keep that in mind. I guess the question would be, is it worth premiere access on Disney Plus? And my answer to that would be depends on many factors. If you have a whole lot of people that are going to watch it on your Disney Plus account, you got, parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles. If you got a lot of people wanting to watch Black Widow and they're on your account, yeah, sure, it's worth it. Because it's kind of cheaper than going to the movies. But if you're like me and being the only person that actually wants to see Black Widow in the family, I would say go to the theater. That's what I did, and it worked out really well. I guess it also depends, too, on how many times do you think you're going to see Black Widow? Like, are you going to watch it once, or are you going to watch it several times within the time frame of Premiere Access before it's free. My thing would be, use your own judgment. Like, if you think that, you know, there's a whole group of people that want to go see it, so let's just do Premiere Access. You know, it works. If you're sitting there going, you know, it's one or two of us, you know, the Premiere Access price is a little hefty, let's go to the movies. If you're not comfortable going to the movies, then Premiere Access could be a way to go. But honestly, I would say even if you're indifferent to this movie, like, if you're not necessarily looking forward to Black Widow, but also if you're just indifferent to it, like, you don't necessarily care one way or the other, I would say wait for it to be free on Disney Plus. Because I think a lot of people are going to sit there and say it was enjoyable, but why did I pay this much money? Yeah, I would say use your judgment. I know that here in Canada, Black Widow is going to be available for free with Disney Plus on October 6th, 2021. Not sure whether that's the case everywhere else, but it's pretty easy to figure out. Just open up Disney Plus, search Black Widow, and in the top it'll tell you, you know, Premiere Access, and then it'll be available, you know, on whatever date. Yeah, it's pretty easy to figure out when it's going to be available to everybody. Yeah, so use the judgment, I guess. It's not much of an answer, but I don't want to necessarily tell people, oh yeah, go pay Premiere Access or go to the theater, or wait even. Like, I would say think about how excited you are. Think about how many people are going to be viewing it too. Think of how many times you think you're going to view it. And go according to that, I guess. Now we are moving into spoiler territory. So, if you haven't seen Black Widow, go get it on Premiere Access, go see it in theaters, or wait until it's free and then come back here. Whatever you prefer to do that and then come back here so you can hear my thoughts on specific things, I guess. Spoilers will be discussed. 3, 2, 1, spoilers! Okay. So first I'm going to talk about certain plot points. I'm not going to talk about all the plot points, just certain ones. And then I'm going to go into characters and give my thoughts on all the characters that are there. And yeah. So, we got answers to the elusive Budapest mission. Yeah. Okay. So basically the Budapest mission was Natasha, in order to defect to S.H.I.E.L.D. from Russia, the final step was kill Dreykov, and thus ending the Red Room. So that's exactly what she does. Her and Clint, we hear his voice. We don't see him, but we hear his voice. Essentially blew up the 5-story building that had Dreykov and his young daughter in it. They had a shootout with the Hungarian Special Forces and basically went into hiding for days. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense that that's what she would have to do in order to defect to S.H.I.E.L.D. Prove her loyalties to S.H.I.E.L.D. rather than the Red Room. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense within this movie. But I will say it's kind of an odd thing to call back to in Avengers. Like, when they're, having the shootout with the Shatari invasion and everything like that, literally, like, Natasha's like, it's just like Budapest all over again. And Clint's like, well, you and I remember Budapest very differently. Yeah, they do, because I'm not sure what one has to do with the other. But it happened. We got answers to that. One of the bottom tier questions I needed answered in this movie, but we got answers. The Red Room. Oh gosh, I don't even know where to start with this Red Room, except for we needed more. So the Red Room is such a huge part of Natasha's past, and it's such a huge part that she's trying to overcome. And it's very traumatic for her. Like, when Wanda in Age of Ultron is, like, pulling up, like, the most, feared, nightmares and stuff like that. Natasha's is literally the Red Room. We got very little details about the Red Room. The Red Room played a huge part in this movie, but not many details revealed. We got flashes of the Red Room in that spectacular opening sequence. Oh my gosh. The opening credits to this movie are amazing. Seriously. Like, probably the best part of the movie is the opening sequence. Like, just the opening sequence and the opening credits and everything. It's just like, that's amazing. So we got snippets of it, like, flashing to all the different widows and everything, and them being scared and robotic and all that. But yeah, on top of that, we got some, conversations, I guess, between Melina, Natasha, and Yelena. Ultimately, I'm just more confused about the Red Room now than I was before. Like, we have Dreykov, who is running the Red Room, and rather than picking up orphaned girls, he is literally, like, picking the girls based off of their genetic potential as infants? What does that even mean? And, like, we find out that he, like, paid off Natasha's parents to get Natasha because she had the genetic potential. And it's like, okay. Very confused, but sure. Yeah, and then he performs experiments on them, basically digging into their brains, and most of them don't survive that. And it's like, okay, so what's this genetic potential supposed to be? Like, yeah, Natasha was part of the generation that was psychologically conditioned, and Yelena was part of the generation that was chemically manipulated. So literally, like, chemically, rewired her brain so that she would stay loyal, because, with Natasha defecting, it's like, well, we can't have that again. And yeah, it's weird how much of this movie kind of centers around the Red Room, but we don't learn a whole lot about the Red Room. I mean, I'm glad we got what we got, but also, like, I needed more. I needed more clarification, I think, on a lot of things, but we got the Red Room. We got answers, no matter how weird and strange they are. But yeah. But that twist that Melina and Natasha swapped places before heading into the Red Room was such an amazing twist, for me personally anyways, because I did not see it coming. Like, I think it was because I had it pegged that Melina was going to betray the family in some way. Like, I had that pegged from, like, the first trailer that dropped in December 2019. And I refused to let it go So, yeah, naturally, when Melina is like to Natasha, oh yeah, I called the Red Room. We don't have much time before they get here. And then Yelena comes out of the bedroom and Natasha's on the ground unconscious and Melina's like, I'm sorry. And then she like stings Yelena with, I guess it's a version of the widow's bite. But anyway, she basically knocks Yelena unconscious too. And it's like, okay, so we got Alexei, Yelena, and Melina. No, well, I guess it is Melina, but Natasha unconscious. And Melina's like, we're going to party. And it's like, okay, so I was right. But then we get the reveal that it's, Melina is Natasha and Natasha is Melina. And it's like, oh my goodness, I didn't see that coming. But also, I love it because you see things in a whole new light. Like, there's the scene where Melina walks by the, widows in training type thing. Like, they're, like, in the Red Room. And they're basically training with their guns. And they're, like, turning and spinning and on the ground and everything. And they're kind of, like, synchronized swimmers, I guess. And she looks in and she kind of like gives like a slight nod and walks away. And it's like, yeah, that's Natasha, looking in at everything that she left behind, everything she thought she destroyed, just being built up and built up and built up stronger. And it's like going back and thinking about those moments. It's like, okay, it takes on a whole new light when you realize that it's Natasha and not Melina. Yeah. Now, I want to talk about the amount of times we had to suspend disbelief in this movie. Like, look, it's a superhero movie. I'm not expecting realistic things. Like, I'm expecting that I'm going to have to suspend some disbelief. But ultimately, Natasha, Yelena, Melina, they are all regular, granted well-trained, human beings. They don't have superpowers. They are not invincible. I mean, I guess they have the genetic potential, which is why they were able to survive the Red Room, but they're not invincible. Natasha, in Endgame, literally jumps off a cliff and dies. So, how is it that Natasha flies through the air, tumbles down subway stairs in a car, and basically, goes and gets into all these fights and literally comes out unscathed? Like, at least Yelena, when they tumbled out of the car, she cut her arm and everything, so it was like, okay. Normal sort of accident situation where, you come out and you're, banged up and you're cut up and everything like that. But Natasha's like, yup, it's just a regular day for me, let's go. And she doesn't have a scratch on her, she doesn't have bruises, she's not in pain, and it's like, okay. Like, the amount of times that they have fallen down from great heights without getting injured, without getting scraped, without getting, beaten up a little bit, is kind of unreal. Like, it's more than a little unreal. It's more than the suspension of disbelief that I was expecting to bring into this movie. Yeah, I mean, they could have had really good yet humanly realistic fight sequences. Like, look, I love the fight sequences that we got. They look amazing. But it's also like, these are not superpowered people. So maybe we don't have them skydiving, without a parachute. Like, maybe we don't do that. Maybe we have them, duking it out on the ground. Just a thought. The family dynamics were amazing. Like, I honestly love the family dynamics. I think other than the opening credits, the family dynamics is probably the best part of the movie. Like, Alexei, Melina, Natasha, and Yelena, like, they have such great chemistry with each other, both in the past in 1995 and in the present 2016. Like, yeah, their reunions in 2016 were a little chilly. Like, Natasha and Yelena. Yelena was very angry with Natasha. And then Natasha and Yelena were very angry with Alexei. And then, they were very, very super angry with Melina and very untrusting of Melina. Yeah, but ultimately in the end, they came together and they really felt like a family. And they were able to admit to themselves and to each other that even though their family unit was fake for 3 years, 21 years ago, they really do care about each other. And it was just so great to see them, team up and, really care about each other. Like, even when Melina and Alexei are, like, on the plane escaping from the Red Room type thing, like, they're like, do you see the girls? Like, they're circling around trying to find Natasha and Yelena and everything like that. And it's just like, they really do care about each other. And it's so great to see. Now, the vest. It seems like a minor plot point to bring up, but I want to talk about it because I love the moment when Yelena gives Natasha her vest. Because the vest was the first piece of clothing Yelena bought for herself. It was the first thing she bought once she had her free will restored. She hadn't had free will since she was like 6 years old. And she got her free will back. She bought the vest. She made modifications to make it, to her liking and make it useful for her. And she literally gives it to Natasha and says, I know how much you like it. Take it. And it's like, they are sisters and it is so amazing. But on the flip side of all of that, Natasha wearing the vest in Infinity War and, I guess the first bit of Endgame before the 5-year jump, it was like she wanted to keep her sister close and bring her sister into the biggest battle that she faced. Like, she faced the end of humanity with Thanos. And she's like, my sister is here with me. I got her. Right? And it's so beautiful because of what it meant. And, who knew that a simple piece of clothing could mean so much? Now we move into the post-credit scene. Because, of course, Black Widow has a post-credit scene. It's the only scene that sets up the future. So, we learned that Yelena has been working with Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. Remember her from Falcon and Winter Soldier? Yeah, she was supposed to make her debut in Black Widow. Which I kind of thought that was going to be the case because of the way she was introduced in Falcon and Winter Soldier. But regardless, we see that Yelena is at Natasha's, like, tombstone gravesite type thing. It's got all sorts of flowers and stuffed animals and everything. And it's like, people care about Natasha. Who knew? Oh, man. And it was like, it was such a great moment. Like, Yelena's like moving everything around, so that she could see the daughter sister Avenger. And it's like, yeah, this is my sister. And then she goes and she whistles. And the whistle only really came up twice in the movie. Like, it showed up first in 1995 when Natasha's sort of wandering through the woods. And then she hears Yelena whistling. And then she goes to Yelena. And then the whistle comes again at the end with Natasha being like, okay, I'm off to, go rescue the Avengers. And they whistle to say goodbye to each other. And so to have Yelena at Natasha's tombstone and whistling and not hearing a whistle back, it was just like, oh, so much heartbreak. But don't worry, because the heartbreak didn't last long, because we had Valentina show up and basically tell Yelena, hey, I got somebody you can kill. You can kill Clint, because he's the reason Natasha's dead. Makes sense. Florence Pugh's Yelena is supposed to be in Hawkeye, so I guess. But it's like, it was such a beautiful moment, ruined by the intrusion of Valentina. Like, I feel like we could have had that moment for Yelena, who's mourning her sister, for us as Natasha fans who, didn't get to have that closure moment in Endgame because, we had to deal with the whole Tony Stark dying situation. It's like, this is like the closure that Yelena gets. This is the closure that we get. You could have let us have it. But no. Like, literally, it would have worked just as well if, Yelena, has her moment, turns to leave, and then Valentina's, like, a few feet behind her or whatever. And then she's like, okay, what do you want? Type thing. Like, we literally could have had that whole conversation happen after the moment. Just a few moments. A few. It's all we're asking. But, yeah. I mean, it sets up the future. So that's good. But also, like, I needed that whole Yelena is there and then she's turning to leave, and then that's when she has the conversation with Valentina, because we didn't need it to play out the way that it did. But I'm gonna move on to the characters. First we're gonna start with Natasha, because, well, this is her movie. It's her solo movie. It's her swan song. Natasha's fantastic in this movie. If you like Natasha in all the movies that she's been in so far, you're gonna like her in Black Widow. There's not much to say about that. Yeah, Natasha is Natasha. Still in her own movie. She's still who she is. Yeah. But Yelena. Yelena provides quite a bit of the comic relief in this movie. Like, between Yelena and Alexei, that's where the comic relief comes in. But Yelena also brings a lot of the heartbreak. Like, she has the moment where she tells Melina and Natasha and Alexei, like, okay, it wasn't real to you guys, but it was real to me. Like, I was like 3 years old when I was brought into this family. This is all I've ever known. Don't sit there and say it wasn't real, because it was real to me. And it's just like, oh my gosh, Florence Pugh delivers, A+ performance in both the comedic moments and the heartbreaking moments. Definitely Yelena is the standout amongst the new characters that we got. And I can't wait to see what she does in the future. Melina. Melina is a lot like Natasha in this respect that she is, she's very, like, sort of serious. Like, she doesn't provide the comic relief. She's very much, a little more reserved. She's a lot more serious than Yelena and Alexei. Like she is Natasha in the future. Like, but she's also very maternal to Natasha and Yelena. Like, we see that it was fake, and yeah, she had to play the role, but she's very maternal to them. Like, she didn't necessarily have to be that maternal to them on the undercover mission, but she was. And even in, like, 2016, like, she's like, I didn't know that they were, you know, testing this out on the widows. I didn't know any of that type thing. And she's right there fighting by her family's side. Like, she wants to make sure that Natasha and Yelena are safe. And yeah, she's very, very maternal with them. But I think one of the problems that people have with Melina in this movie is that she is creating these chemicals that are being used on the widows to mind control them. She's very proud of that. She doesn't necessarily know that, you know, it's going towards the widows, but she's like, we created mind control, and it's great. It is a little weird that she doesn't know that it's being used on the widows, but she is also a victim, like Natasha, like Yelena, like all the other widows. Like, she was born and raised in the Red Room her entire life, and well into her adult life. So, she has this moment, where she's talking to Natasha, and she's like, why does a mouse born in a cage run on that wheel? It's like, that is all they ever know. So she doesn't necessarily like that she's doing it, and what it's being used for, but she also doesn't see a way out. She does, like, she does make amends by joining, you know, Natasha and Yelena and Alexei to bring down the Red Room, but I feel like there was one point that they really, really missed. And I think it would have been the absolute perfect redemption. So, at the beginning of the movie, when Yelena's talking to Natasha, I believe it's Natasha that she tells this to, where she says the antidote to the mind control, like, drugs that are being used on them, was created by an older widow from Melina's generation. Like, she literally said, from Melina's generation. And I think it would have been really good to see Melina being sort of that double agent. Like, she doesn't see a way out. She feels like she still has to, you know, work for Dreykov and all that. And so she's creating this mind control drug. But on the flip side of that, she's also creating the antidote for it to free the widows. I think that would have been a very interesting reveal, and I think it would have gone a long way to fully redeeming Melina in a way that Black Widow didn't really do. Yeah. Alexei. Again, where Melina is Natasha in the future, Alexei is Yelena in the future. Like, but I think he's a little bit more comedic than Yelena, because he doesn't see anything wrong with anything. Like, everything is sort of, you know, played for jokes with him for the most part. And, you know, we see that when they rescue him, he's like, you know what? Those 3 years in Ohio, it was the most boring thing ever. Like, I am the Red Guardian, and I was forced to be undercover with a family. It's like, no, I should be out there being Red Guardian. But, I mean, he does come around, like everybody else. Like, he does come around, and he admits, like, you know, I do love you. And then he has that sweet moment with Yelena after she takes off, after saying, like, it was real to me. And he's, like, trying to be a father, and he's, like, failing at it. He's trying to make her feel better by talking about himself and his life. And And then he literally starts singing American Pie, which is Yelena's favorite song. And it's like, okay, he got there. He figured out how to make her feel better. Yeah. So, I mean, like, he does come around to, you know, being the father that these girls needed. And like I said, he brings a lot of the humor. That's pretty much really all he does. Like, he doesn't have very dramatic type moments. Yeah. Then we have Dreykov. This dude is the villain. Like, the trailers would have you believing Taskmaster is the villain. No, Taskmaster is a whole other victim. But Dreykov is the villain. And honestly, I don't mind him as the villain. Like, we're used to these big, strong villains in these movies. But Dreykov is actually really, really weak. Like, literally, Natasha tells him, you're weak. Because his power is not punching and fighting. His power is manipulation. He manipulates the widows. He manipulates, government authorities. He basically has himself implanted in everybody's life all over the world. But there is one thing about Dreykov that just does not work as a character. Is the fact that smelling his pheromones prevents anyone from committing violence against him. Okay. Like, this is weird. Like, Natasha can't shoot him. Natasha can't stab him. Natasha can't do anything because of the smell of his pheromones. And it's like, I feel like we could have found a more normal way. Like, I don't know what that would be, but that just felt really weird. And yeah, and it really doesn't work because Melina told Natasha, sever the nerve. So Natasha literally breaks her nose and then she's able to, destroy him essentially. Yeah. But I mean, we could have taken this dude out with a sniper. We literally could have taken this dude out with a sniper. So we're not smelling his pheromones. We can literally be in another building taking him out with a sniper. I don't know. It was just weird. But Dreykov as a villain, because of the fact that he is manipulative and everything like that, I enjoyed that. Taskmaster. Oh boy, people have tons of thoughts on Taskmaster. So, Taskmaster is revealed to be Dreykov's daughter, who was in the building when Natasha blew it up. I do honestly wish that Taskmaster had been Melina, or even a clone of Natasha, We were doing lots of strange things in this movie. Why couldn't we clone Natasha? That's all I'm saying. But honestly, the fact that it was Dreykov's daughter made a whole lot of sense for this movie. Taskmaster was not set up to be the MCU's next Thanos. Like, Taskmaster was the Black Widow movie's villain. And I think because Natasha had to confront her past, with her family, with the Red Room, with Dreykov, all that, it makes sense that she would also have to confront her past in Taskmaster, with it being his daughter that was innocent in the whole blowing up the building thing. Basically, for Natasha to be able to help Dreykov's daughter, even in the simplest way by freeing her from his, chemical influence, it really went a long way to help Natasha make amends to her. And then we have Rick Mason. And I almost forgot to include him in this list because he doesn't do much. Like, I think he was literally put in this movie as a way to, I guess, be sort of a red herring for Taskmaster. Like, okay, well, you know, he's gonna have to be Taskmaster because he's not in the trailers. No, he's not in the trailers because he doesn't do anything. Like, he's irrelevant to this whole movie. Like, he is basically Natasha's ally. Like, he's literally the one out there bringing her, you know, the trailer, the fake IDs, the mail, the helicopter, the Quinjet. Like, yeah, he does do a lot for Natasha in this movie, but also, like, do we really need to create a whole new character to do this? Like, was any of that actually relevant? Or could we have just had her be, like, saying Natasha, like, yep, my friend came through, right? Like, I feel like we did not need Rick Mason in this movie, and I really wish we got more from him. But we did not. He didn't do anything. And like I said, I think he just existed for, you know, us to be like, okay, O.T. Feg Bentley is in this movie. He's not in the trailers. We have Taskmaster as a villain. Could he be Taskmaster? I think that was his only purpose. Seriously, I think that was his only purpose. Because why? Why did he exist? And, like, honestly, like, he's Natasha's ally, so I don't even see how he can show up in the future. I mean, he met Yelena, I guess, so maybe, you know, she can call him up if she needs help, but he's Natasha's ally. He's not Yelena's. And so it's like, okay, so you were in the movie for maybe 5-10 minutes at most. And Natasha's dead now, so I don't see how you can show up in the future. I really hope we do find a way to bring him back in the future because, like, OT is, you know, a great actor, and I think he could be a lot of fun. But I just don't know where we would put him in the future. I don't know, he felt like probably the most pointless character in this movie, and yeah. I don't know why we had him at all. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on Black Widow. The plots, some of them, and the characters. Let me know, what did you think about Black Widow, and how exactly did you view it? Theater, Disney Plus Premier Access, free on Disney Plus. Yeah, let me know that in the comments down below. But also let me know, who is your favorite new character? Like, I think mine has to be Yelena. Like, she's so cool, she's so funny, and Florence Pugh is amazing. Yeah, let me know who your favorite new character is as well. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the notification bell so you can be notified when I upload my latest videos. You can check out more reviews by clicking here. You can check out more Marvel content by clicking here. Follow all my socials, the link is in the description down below, and I will see you all in another video. Bye, guys.